Mute. Thank you. Hello and welcome everyone to the 5th Future Food Climate Supper. We are dialing in from multiple countries, as you could see on the screen, but what is the Climate Supper? The Future Food Institute and the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization has started organizing boot camps, food and climate shaper boot camps in 2019. First, they were all in person, but due to the pandemic, we needed to pivot to a digital format, what we are super happy about because due to this pivot, we actually managed to run 5 editions of this digital bootcamp already, which is always a very diverse and international classroom. So today you will actually meet all of the participants of the 5th digital edition dialing in from throughout the world, and they will have conscious and delicious conversations with you and showcase their dinners or lunches depending on their time zones and what the thematic areas what they are working on. What kind of thematic areas do I mean? Our partner, the Chef's Manifesto, basically have 3 representatives in this cohort who were the squad leaders of the upcoming 3 sessions, what we will have today. Each session will have a specific thematic area, what will be introduced by this Chef Manifesto member. And all of the other participants who are dialing in the same session will need to work out something related to this topic. They are all related to sustainable food systems, but from different perspectives. So I am Julia Dalmadi, the Director of Community Programs at Future Food, and has been running these programs with an amazing team for the past 1.5 years. And this is the first Climate Supper where they will be the hosts of these sessions. And this time I would like to hand over to Gyanavel Ravindranath, who is dialing in from Mumbai, and he will be your host for the first session. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Julia, for this opening. For the To Be Amazing Climate Supper for today. As you guys know, as Julia introduced me, my name is Gyan, and I'm a part of the digital bootcamp team here at Future Food. As she said, I am dialing in from Mumbai in India, and it's currently a little over tea time for us here. Before we begin our session today, I would like to share a piece from from former Vice President Al Gore, as I quote from the Climate Reality Project. Believe in the power of your own voice. The more noise you make, the more accountability you demand from your leaders, the more our world will change for the better. I now feel it's time for us to make some noise through one multidimensional conversation that is food. I have the privilege today to introduce you to our first batch for today's that's focusing on the thematic area 1, ingredients grown with respect for the earth and its oceans. This thematic area directly advocates for SDG 2, SDG 6, SDG 13, SDG 14, SDG 15, and SDG 17. To tell you more about the Chef's Manifesto, I'm super excited to introduce you to Zoe Bong, who is currently pursuing her digital bootcamp course here at Future Food. Zoe is a chef by profession and also an ambassador for the Chef's Manifesto, representing the community. And today, I'm humbled to have Zoe lead the first session of our Climate Summit. As the quote goes, after the last no comes a yes. And on that yes, the future of the world depends. We need to get to the yes on solving the climate crisis. Thank you, Zoe, for coming in. The platform's all yours.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm Zoe, as you said, and I'm dialing in from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And it is dinner time, little past dinner time if you're a Chinese family like me and you eat really early. And I picked the first thematic area, ingredients grown with respect for the earth and its oceans, because I really resonate with this as a chef, as someone who has pursued a career in food. But also I feel like it's a really accessible way for people to be introduced to this idea of sustainability in food, because it doesn't really matter what you're cooking, you always have a choice to pick ingredients that are friendlier towards the planet and towards the people who grow it or raise your food. So That's why we picked thematic area 1.
Zoe, can you tell us a bit more on what you have brought today for the conversation? What have you made today?
Sure, I'd love to show you. I'm going to actually switch my camera around. So I prepared a take on a classic Malaysian dish that we usually call economy rice, but I'm calling it circular economy rice. And this is essentially a very affordable lunch or dinner for people who go to work. And this is an easy thing that people normally take out to eat. So I have done kind of a planet-friendly take on it, which is mostly plant-based. And it's always rice-based. And I've picked a rice grown by this amazing community of farmers in East Malaysia. And this is made by this company called Langit Collective, and they are essentially a cooperative that brings all these farmers together. And it's really cool. You have a QR code on each bag of rice that tracks where the rice is from and who's grown it. So there are 2 kinds of rice here. This is ulam, which is a traditional Malaysian herb salad, and it's got a bunch of different ingredients, and I'll show you some of the things that I've used here. Here I've got what I call a purple curry made with sweet potatoes and pumpkin, and a classic like green curry spice mix. We have these wonderful mushrooms here, which are grown by a company called Plucked. And they do a lot of vertical farming, but they also work with kind of more traditional farmers, and they retrain them to use new technology and expose them to new ideas in farming. And this is a pumpkin and soy bean curd dish with a Thai basil dressing. This is tempeh, which is a really well-known like fermented soy product, which is famous in Southeast Asia. That's just been fried, and it's to be eaten with these different sambal condiments, which are chili condiments. There are 2 kinds here. These are kale chips, and they are also grown by the same people who grew the mushrooms over there. And these crispy items are kind of reminiscent of a cracker that you normally have with this rice dish. These are some of the ingredients. I've foraged a lot of these in the community garden that we have downstairs. Lots of different herbs, and these are all in this herb salad over here.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Zoe, sorry to interrupt. I would like to quickly ask Lauren to switch to gallery view because and ask you to show again the dishes, if you don't mind, very quickly, because on the live stream we are still in speaker view, and as your mic was open from another device, we actually didn't see the dishes. So if you don't mind, please show the picture of the dishes again. Thank you so much.
Of course. Can you see everything?
Yes, thank you.
No worries. So that is the rice dish, and you would have all of these dishes, and they're normally packed in like a styrofoam container, but we've got these great compostable packaging type things from a supplier called Circle Pack, and I will be interviewing them shortly as part of our boot camp. These are some of the herbs I got from the garden downstairs.
So all the herbs are from the garden downstairs that you have primarily constructed for your meal today?
Most of them are, yes. If not, I got them from the market.
That's amazing, because a lot of it was quite balanced when it comes to your nutritious meal. And again, we know different types. We have over 3,600 different types of commercially grown rice in Southern Asia. So keeping that principle in mind, do tell us more about your role in the Chef's Manifesto and how you came about joining them and how you try and connect all these parts together to form this big story.
That's a great question. Thank you. So my journey with Chef's Manifesto actually started quite recently, a couple months ago. But my background is mostly in fine dining, and I had always been kind of curious about the issue of food waste and sustainability ever since, I see the products that we use and I see how we try to utilize every part of it in fine dining. So that's been a really important question for me. And then I think it was towards the beginning of this year when actually one of my old lecturers from culinary school started posting a little bit more, and she was involved in Chef's Manifesto. So that's kind of how I reached out to Chef's Manifesto and started writing for them. And they were really receptive to understanding my perspective as a Malaysian, but also as someone who has worked in different restaurants across the world. So it's been really wonderful to find this whole community of people everywhere, much like the boot camp community.
So if I may ask, are there new agendas in place when it comes to this decade has been named as the change-making decade. So what kind of a role do you see you as an individual, as an ambassador for the Chef's Manifesto? What kind of a direction do you see the Chef's Manifesto taking in your perspective for this decade?
Wow. I think that's such a multifaceted question. And I think it is such a complex problem that it requires that sort of all those layers. But with Chef's Manifesto, I think there are chefs from all sorts of restaurants, different walks of life. And I think that the role of people who prepare food, produce food will become increasingly important as we try to address these issues. And I think everyone will have a different, interesting, very personalized role depending on their background and how they came to Chef's Manifesto.
Wow, that's amazing. Maybe and one last question. So as an ambassador and as a person who's advocating, again, coming from the kitchen, me coming from the kitchen as well, do you have any words for our viewers out there? Maybe as a representative, maybe as a student, as a chef, do you have anything that you would like to convey?
Oh, so good. Thank you for the platform. I think it's a little bit daunting. I think for me, it was a bit daunting because there's always this view of a particular kind of person who becomes an advocate or who cares about these things. But I think the lesson that I've learned is that you can start anywhere and you can start really small with choosing what you eat at home a little bit differently, choosing how you manage food waste a little bit differently, and deciding to speak about it doesn't have to be some big thing. It can be a little post on social media. It can be talking to your friends or over a meal like we're doing with the climate supper. And I think that that makes you an advocate. So I would encourage anyone who is interested to learn a little bit more, and there are plenty of resources. And yeah, there's a whole community behind you.
Thank you so much for that, Zoe. And I think I'm a little inspired as well at the same time. So again, as you are the lead for the first session today with us, I would like to invite our next participant for today while you are staying on here. Our next participant, Momoko Nakamura, is dialing in from Japan, and it's currently dinner time for her. Momoko is a cultural conversationalist and storyteller, exploring the breadth and depth of Japanese food culture beyond cooking and eating. Through writing, media appearances, speaking engagements, and program and event development, she shares the learnings from her fieldwork across the Japanese countryside with the world. Ancestral teachings of her place within the natural world and historical attitudes and practices that continue to make their mark in today's society carry valuable hints as to how to better approach the most critical issues of our times, including geopolitical, educational, and environmental situations. Momoko, are you there? She has muted herself.
I'm here, but it says that the host has, okay, now it's the host has asked. Yeah, the host had stopped my video, I guess.
You should be able to turn it on now.
Okay. Hello.
Hi, Momoko. Good evening.
Good evening. It's actually not dinner time. It's quite past dinner time and my family's sleeping. And so I need to speak a little bit quietly, but I will share with you a dish that we ate during dinner. Looks like this. Can you see? Is that in
Tell us more
Anyways,
about it.
these are pickles, various types of daikon radish, purple, red, white. And Japan is said to be made of mountain and of sea. And so most often than not, our dishes are made with energies of both of those components. So for example, with these pickles, you have the vegetables from the land, and then you have the you have the salt and the kombu seaweed from the sea. The kombu seaweed and the salt and the yuzu citrus are what applies the flavor components for this particular seaweed, this particular pickle. But the pickles are great because I source the majority of my vegetables directly from farmers. And so often I'll be receiving lots of one type of vegetable, which means that I can't eat all of it at one go. And so then these pickles come in handy because I'm able to repurpose some of those vegetables from fresh to slightly preserved, or if it's a fruit, I often make it into a vinegar. So today, yeah, this is kind of the type of pickle that I see most often on the table, just because the daikon radishes are very much of season. In fact, the season starts really kind of late November, and then the radishes get much higher moisture content over the next few months. And so depending on the stage of that season, the vegetable is used in different ways. And this is what we call the hashiri, or the inklings of the season. And so the radishes are used in a certain way. And then, when it's at its peak, it's used in another way. And then when it's the remnants of the season, then the radishes are used in a third way. What's more is that daikon radishes are kind of long. And so depending on the part of the radish, it tastes different. And the texture is a little bit different. And so it's used in different parts. For example, the bottom is a little bit more spicy. And so often it's used grated and in pairings with proteins and that sort of thing. And then the very top is sweeter. And so it can be applied for things like pickles, or to eat raw, or to be used in a kind of a braised dish. And then also always using every part of the vegetable. So I think you can kind of see here that there are some greens, but those greens are the tops of the radishes, and those will always be used too. And the citrus, the yuzu citrus, you see you might see over here. That's the peel, but the fruit is used within the brine of the pickles. But the peel is also always used. So it's important to kind of have both of those components of the land and of the sea in all of the dishes that you find on the Japanese table. But also we have this concept called mottainai in Japanese, which means you never want to put anything to waste. And so that doesn't just mean food waste, but that also means intentions. That means you have a lot of skills, but you're not using them to your fullest potential. What a waste. And so there's this very strong cultural component to the way that we interact with our food.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Momoko. I have just one question for you.
Yes.
So knowing that, I mean, ingredients from the mountains and from the sea, so it's land and water, high plain and low plain. And then you have different mindsets when it comes to ingredients. So as you know, in reflection bites, we talk about food mood. So this is somewhat similar as well. So how do you see the youth of your nation taking this into consideration for the future?
Well, it depends on who you're asking, I suppose.
As a storyteller
Very,
yourself, how would you envision this to be?
how would I interact with the youth of Japan?
So you being a storyteller and a conversationalist, if I had to ask you to give us any thoughts on this.
Okay. Well, the youth of Japan, I mean, that's a really large demographic. And so there's a small population who are very aware of the power of their decisions, and working closely and buying directly from producers. But, I would say 99.99999% haven't thought about where their food comes from whatsoever. Even if they live in the countryside or the city. In the city, it's easy to forget because you don't even really see where your food comes from at all. And so often people will say, I mean, this is like one very specific part of the spectrum, but they think that the fish are swimming in the sea like filleted. Or we have bamboo shoots that come in spring, and they're kind of a sort of delicacy in Japanese cuisine, but we eat it to welcome and celebrate spring. But what you find in the supermarkets is bamboo shoots all year round, and they're cut up in very small pieces and packed in water with a lot of preservatives. And so often people, young and old, frankly, don't really know what a real bamboo shoot looks like. But it still somehow remains a symbol of spring. And so there's definitely a gap between feeling like you understand your place in the overall system, and then the actual and actually understanding. And I think part of education is trying to understand what you don't know. And then the more you know, the more you realize you don't know, actually. And scratching the surface is the first and most difficult step, I suppose. But I would say going to average large supermarket that's filled with conventionally farmed produce doesn't really get you very far. Going into the countryside and actually speaking with someone who works with the land is the only way to get any sort of insight. Just like if you were trying to understand an artist or a musician, you kind of have to go and speak directly.
Understood. Thank you so much for that conversation, Momoko. This was quite inspiring and quite interesting to see on how the youth change from region to region, and how, I mean, yes, if they are aware of the power of their decisions, it's quite important, and it's quite nice as well. I know it's pretty late for you, so I'm going to say thank you. Do have a lovely weekend, and thank you so much for that amazing dish. Please do share a recipe when you do have time, sometime next week. Besides that, thank you so much for coming in. Bye, Momoko.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
So, guys, we are going to move from Japan all the way now to Switzerland, where we'll be dialing in with Andreas. Sorry about that. Andreas is a chef by profession and a restaurant owner. He is also an ambassador for the social gastronomy movement. He owns Babette, a bistro in the heart of Zurich, the biggest and culinary vibrant city in Switzerland. Andreas has always had a passion for engaging with the community generally and the young people specifically. His passion has been realized over the last 10 years as he has taught in the vocational training segment, where he had the pleasure and privilege of teaching young cooks what he has learned through his work experience, as well as observing them take this newfound knowledge and build on it. In Babet, he lives and practices social gastronomy, engaging with his local and wider community by organizing a variety of cooking courses, enabling people of all ages and backgrounds to cook in a healthy and environmentally focused or aware way. For example, he organized cooking with children courses and environmentally focused courses like plant-based or farm to fork. Thank you so much, Andreas, for coming in. Super excited to see what you have.
Cool. Hello. Good morning, good evening. Another great day in Zurich, but today I have like super sunny, wonderful, lovely, warm people with me on the table. Thank you for the introduction. Lovely. I would say we just start with a little introduction round and then I focus a bit more on what we actually just started to eat. So we had our flat at home. So my idea was like to bring people together from different sectors. So we have Ross from London.
Hello.
What are you doing? What's your purpose? 2 sentences.
I'm looking to transform education systems so that education for universal well-being becomes the norm everywhere.
Wonderful to have you here. Then Antonetta.
Hi everyone, I'm Antonetta and I'm a super consumer and very interested in slow food.
And board member of Slow Food Zurich.
Thank you, Andy, for reminding me.
Then my lovely wife, which is like representing
Science.
science. So she's an infectious disease specialist. Doctor. So
Doctor, medical doctor.
food is medicine. We always fight what's more important, food or medicine. And another lovely person is Carlos.
Hello, I'm also a chef. I own 2 small restaurants in Zurich and try to make my best, like Andy, to work in a sustainable and healthy way and create a sustainable and healthy environment for everybody that connects with.
Yeah, and he created an amazing ecosystem as well. And we are both actually members of the Chefs Alliance from Slow Food. We're also doing that. Our purpose is today to focus on goal number 1, which is celebrate ingredients grown with respect, for the local but also global sector. So Ross and we went to a market, so like a farmer's market this morning. We just ran through the market.
Okay.
So we are eating right now. We started with a salad has caramelized hazelnuts, kale, and I don't know how you call it, chicory. This bitter endive.
Brussels sprouts.
No, Brussels sprouts. No, that's chicory.
Endive.
Endive, yeah. Endive juice. With a yogurt dressing. So all super locally sourced. It's like more or less beside the hazelnuts. It's like less than 20 kilometers farm. They're like young. It's coming from a farm which is taken over by there's 2 sons. They took over the farm from the parents and changed it into an organic farm. So they show this new generation of farming. And that's also nice to see that, young farmers come and they see the need of changing their system, and organic is a solution. Yeah, so that's the starter. Then we continue with a soup. You can see it.
Oh, wow.
So we have like different kales. That's like palm coal, cavolonero, like the palm. It's a special kind of kale. Carrots, onions, dried tomatoes, dried porcini, like mushrooms, white beans, which are also super healthy and good. And what I want to showcase is like we have lentils inside. They are called mountain lentils. Can you eat a bit less loud, please?
I'm trying, but it's so delicious.
No, I just can move away. You can...
No, the clanking noise is nice. It's not bad.
Okay, then.
It's lunchtime.
It's atmospheric.
Yeah, it's the sound effects. So the mountain lentils, it's also a young farmers family which work in kind of community farm. So they produce vegetable, beef, lentils, all sorts of things in next to the Alps region. So they're like on 1,100 meters, and they recultivated an old heirloom seed of lentils, which kind of disappeared. And as you know, lentils are like a super important fertilizer for the soil. And you know, Canada, India, this lentil problematic, it's crazy. So we have it locally, so we can support a very important puzzle piece of the system in just buying these lentils. And actually the farmer just brought 20 kilos some days ago to Babette.
Oh, wow.
They're not 20 kilos, they're just 5. They're from Bern, actually. Yeah, that's just a wonderful thing to see that, with each dish as I have it also on Babette on the menu, you can tell the story. And people are just, and then you send them a link, about the story, lentils, Canada, India. Yeah, and it works because it's just yummy, it makes sense. And we sinned a little bit because when we went to the market, we also bought a piece of smoked bacon.
Oh, yeah.
It's produced also by one of the rare female butchers we have in Switzerland. Anya Giovanoli, she's called. Great person. And she's like in the same area where this farm with the lentils is from. So like there's also a 3-star Michelin, Andreas Caminada. So he's there also, and he generated a little ecosystem around his restaurant. And that's also a nice showcase, how gastronomy can change entire regions for good. Yeah, and then Antonetta made a cake for desserts.
Also locally grown pumpkin and some vegan black chocolate.
Wow.
Yeah, and because I'm like very well equipped with like Chef's Manifesto stuff, we use that also a bit, but actually we have a different conversation. My goal is like that we come out with like a master pathway idea vision of creating vessels where we bring the right people together. I guess that's the kind of the idea of this ecosystem. We have these vessels already, but now for me it's more clear, also talking with Ross and Antonetta where to go. So our goal is to set up next year a series of dinners with certain goals, and that we are going to do. That's wonderful. No,
it's so colorful. I mean, honestly, all the ingredients so vibrant, so colorful. It's got the entire balance of nutrition. Again, you being a chef, Andreas, I'm not going to divulge a lot more into the food conversation because we spoke a lot about it. And there's a rather personal point, maybe through your work at Babette as well, that I would like to touch on. So you being a member of the social gastronomy movement, you have many instances in your organization where you guys try to create food and you try and supply it towards the local ecosystem and trying to make people happy by filling up their stomachs at the end of the day. Now, I know we had this conversation earlier, but then if you can choose to share, I know it's quite difficult sourcing a lot of these ingredients at times, especially when it comes to cooking for many people. Also at times, because if you are trying to be local, then it's challenging for that bigger mass. Or sometimes there's surplus of ingredients and there's a question on what to do with them. So maybe if you can shed some light on one similar experience for our audience as well.
Yeah, as we know, we produce enough food for everybody, also locally here. but it needs more work. You need more chef, more hands, so it's less cheap than if you buy it like ready-made. And yeah, that's the wrong concept. So I think we as chefs have the responsibility to use everything also with respect, because there's so much energy already in this produced foods that it's a shame to waste it. And if we consult like companies, big companies, which are open for change, we tell them, you don't need to change from the beginning everything. Just start with 1-2 products, like maybe dairy products, which are like a bit critical. Choose 1 or 2 products, look for alternatives, and then start to change slowly. Maybe just use second quality carrots or onions, and then you start from there, because then you experience how much sense it makes. You have a story to tell, you have the impact you create, which is a positive story for your customers. And then it comes automatically. It's like the avalanche effect. You know, if you start somewhere, ideally it starts to roll automatically. And we have enough food. It's not about, we cannot produce enough. I don't believe in that. We produce enough, we just waste too much, and we don't have the right key to this to Thailand to do the distribution to share it. You know, that's I think the key. You would like to add something?
Yes. No, if I can. I also I think maybe we asked ourselves sometimes the wrong questions. We ask ourselves what we want to serve, which kind of dish we want to serve, which should maybe, and this was for me actually a very simple aspect to change a lot in my working flow, that I took a look what is available, not just through the season, but I choose to work with 1 or 2 suppliers and producers and ask them, what do we need to use from your palette of products, and what can we create through that?
And then deal on the price, and then you can work on the pricing.
Well,
you know?
Yeah, it depends on the amount. I run a very small restaurant. I cannot deal, and I don't want to deal. But I think this is also a problem that a lot of chefs have, that the creativity. Sometimes you get like stuck, and you ask yourself, what can I cook? And a palette or a variety of products can help or boost your creativity a lot. To just look and talk, exchange with the producers. What is available? What do we need to use? We have an overflow of tomatoes. We have an overflow of onions. We can create wonderful things out of that. And like you said, this also can get to an avalanche effect, that you then stop to think, what do I want to cook? Which type of recipe do I want to cook? But what do I got, and what do I make out of it?
And education is also key. So I think that's why it's so important to have Ross on the table. It's kind of a totally different industry, but education, where does it start? Where is it needed? You know, I don't know, kindergarten, at home, universities, I believe in all the levels. And it's, teaching is a very old school model, which needs to be reformed, I guess.
I would argue that, yeah. Is there space to say something, or? Yes, so just to give a perspective. So I'm, as I say, involved in transforming education systems in different countries. And I'm absolutely convinced that we have to give very young children and their carers lived experiences through which they connect to themselves, to each other, and the planet through food. I think and I think food is the perfect medium for helping to achieve this. And I think just a very small anecdote, I had a great pleasure last night of going to Babette and enjoying the, what do you call it, Andy?
Soirée végétale.
Soirée, vegetable evening, or soirée, where what I really enjoyed, apart from the delicious food, were the stories that preceded eating the food. So Andy came out and he explained to us the stories around the food, and what the result of that was on the one hand, it was educational in an information sense, but I think more profoundly, it really made me focus on the flavors and what I was eating. It's so common as a consumer, you go to a restaurant and you don't actually focus on the food, you're having conversation or you're lost in your own thoughts. So it really focuses you. And I think that literally embodied experience of digesting the stories with the food is really profound. And I think that if we can create or curate these meals where there's maybe a meditation beforehand and a few stories that bring people together through food as an educational medium, I think it could be really profound.
And we just realized that in Zurich, we have so many companies, NGOs, and the right people waiting for something like that, maybe. So it's just like choosing the right topic, the right people, and then drink 10 bottles of wine and get everything done.
Absolutely. Well, Andres, I must say, I'm going to ask you to host one more local discovery conversation with them. So that's happening. Please take the time out, host another session. We can give you the space, and we would love to hear in depth from you guys on what you guys feel about the entire. Again, food is a conversation, and so truly said about the climate supper in general, where we define the climate supper as moments of conviviality, sparking authentic connections within local and global communities over home-cooked meals and sustainability conversations. That in itself is a pedagogic system. So with that, I must say thank you so much for your time. I know it's the weekend for you. I know it just started snowing. It's cold and you're having a lovely meal. So I would say thank you so much for coming in. Please enjoy the rest of your meal and wish you a very lovely weekend and the best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Andreas. Bye. So, guys, this brings us to the next part of our conversation where we are dialing into Kathmandu in Nepal. And it's currently supper time. So let me introduce you to Ghanshyam Bharai, who has completed his bachelor's degree in food science and technology at the Tribhuvan University. In a single word, he would like to describe himself as an aspiring youth learner. He relishes meeting and talking to new people, visiting new natural places, and working on various environmental and social issues of the community. He usually spends his time growing the global network, professional experience, self-awareness, leadership, aptitude, and research skills that he keeps honing to create real change. He has always been vehement about creating a significant impact through numerous small efforts at the ground level by working with diverse people and mentors in different youth groups and platforms, grabbing new opportunities to grow his knowledge and expertise on climate change and food sustainability. He currently works voluntarily as a regional ambassador of an international organization, which is Hot for Food Foundation, while encouraging young minds to contribute towards food, agriculture, and climate change for the last 3 years. Similarly, aiming to conserve the environment and living creatures, he is functioning as a college ambassador at the Eco Network organization, which works globally on different environmental and climatic issues. With that, thank you so much, Ghanshyam, for coming in. Super excited to see what you have, and hello to your friends and guests styling in from different places.
Thank you so much, Gan. Hello, everyone. Hello, Jui, and hello, my guest. Namaste once again. My name is Ghanshyam, and thank you so much for this warm introduction about me, Gan. So today we have around 8 is my guest. I'm doing this virtually. So as my recipe today, I have jeera rice with carrots and mushroom curry is my dish. And all the ingredients are sourced from local farmers, and I like mushroom curry because I have been eating it from my childhood level. So we have different recipes from the different guests. I guess you will enjoy our recipes from Nepal. So I would like to start from Sisam. Hello, Sisam. How are you?
Hello, Ghanshyamji. I'm absolutely fine. How about you?
Yeah, I'm good. So could you please tell about your recipe and how it is sustainable?
Yeah, of course. I have aloo paratha and then moringa chutney and then makke bhatmas and this butterfly pea flower tea. And it is sustainable as it is all of the ingredients, most of the ingredients are from local market and are grown in our own kitchen garden. And then it is, I have used this chutney, moringa chutney, and this butterfly pea flower tea is underutilized product, and then I've just displayed it to aware people about it. So yeah, that's how. And of course the moringa and all of these food have are highly nutritious and then have so many health benefits, including the ability to treat cancer. This is, I'm talking especially about moringa leaves, ability to treat cancer, and then it is good for lactating women. So yeah, that's how
Yeah,
it
yeah.
is
Thanks,
sustainable.
Isam. So you have utilized underutilized product here in Nepal, especially. Thank you so much. So what about Ditya? What have you cooked?
Hello everyone from Nepal. This is Ditya Lamichane. And today I'm virtually presenting to you buckwheat and finger millet chapatis, as we call them. They are small pancakes, and the batter is of buckwheat and finger millet. So for the added flavors, I have used ginger, garlic, and shallot paste, and the seasoning is of basic salt and pepper. The ingredient, the flour especially, it is sustainable because during the production phase, there have been no use of chemical pesticide. And the flour, it is produced in Kabri Balanchuk district of Nepal. It is local and it is underutilized crop over there. And the recipe that I use for preparing this dish belongs to my grandmother. She used to feed this to us when we were a child. And I try to recreate that recipe today. So thank you so much.
Yeah, that's awesome, Ditya. Could you please show your recipe if it is possible to our guest? If you are from mobile, could you please show your recipe?
Or
Do you mean the image? Could you show us your plate though, Ditya? That would be amazing.
Yes, sure. So this is my plate.
Amazing. Lovely.
So I also have a small chutney section over here. It's tomato chutney with coriander and shallots and ginger, and it's spicy.
Yeah, thanks, Ditya. Thanks. So what about Monica?
Yeah, Ditya's dish look really amazing. So hello everyone, I'm Monica Nemprane from Nepal. So today my dish is like, this is the green salad that I eat regularly on the morning. So it is made up of mung beans, cucumber, lemon. So all these ingredients are bought from local market, which is farmers market. And also I've garnished it with coriander, which is locally grown like in my hostel. And also I have sprinkled some black pepper and black salt, which is also purchased from Austin market, which is a local market here. And these are some chips that I usually like to snack when I'm watching movies. So these are some these are called kapse and nimki, which is usually tea time snack here in Nepal and all around the places here in Nepal. And also I have placed a sweet dish which is famous here in the festival of Tihar. Like we recently had Tihar, and it is called bhai masala. So it is made up of dry fruits and different sesame seeds cooked in ghee, the grass-fed ghee, and which is very nutritious. And all these dishes have high nutritious value, and it is good and healthy and more sustainable because it is made up of local products that were produced here in Nepal. The recipe itself is from local goods and local vegetables. So yeah, that's all from my side.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to see everyone's dishes.
Yeah, thanks, Monica. So what about Elena? What have you cooked up?
Okay. Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, hello, namaste. This is Yelena from Nepal, and today I have millet pancakes. We call it kodo ko roti in Nepali, with lentil soup and tomato and coriander pickles. And millet flour, I brought it from my own farm, and lentils that include peas, beans, mung beans, and other pulses, which I brought from Jumla. And let me tell a fact about Jumla. It is also one of the organic district of Nepal, and tomatoes and coriander, I brought it from local grower. Likewise, coriander, I grew it from my own kitchen, like waste products like baskets and plastic cups. I utilized it and grown that coriander in my own kitchen. So millet, it's underutilized for crops of Nepal, and to produce it, it does not require more agricultural inputs, and it's very rich in protein and nutritional fibers. As I'm a vegetarian, I need to meet my nutritional requirements, so I need very high protein, minerals content, and rich dietary fibers, which is all included in this millet. And lentil soup, it's a complete package of protein, and tomato and pickle add sour, and it's balance all the ingredients. So I prefer to eat and have this dish usually in my supper. So this is it, all about my dish today. So thank you
Yeah,
so much.
that's yeah. Thank you so much, Elena. That's great to know that you have been using solid waste to grow corianders and other vegetables in your garden. Thank you so much for taking this initiation. So I would like to go with Sujina. Sujina, hi. And there is Sujina's brother as well. So what have you cooked today?
Hello, namaste everyone. I am Sujina.
Namaste, my name is Sujay Shrest.
And we are from Nepal. For today, we have rice, taro plant curry. Taro plant curry including a little bit of dried spinach. Locally, we call it piralu, gundruk, and masaura. Talking about our recipe today, why we choose this recipe is because we locally grew taro plant in our kitchen garden. Taro plant doesn't require much fertilizer to grow, and it is very organic, as well as it is underutilized product of Nepal. As it can be grown very easily, it usually goes as a waste in the field. So I wanted to represent taro plant in my recipe today. Talking about taro plant, it has excellent source of fiber, vitamin C, and vitamin E as well. Due to the irritants in its skin, people usually prefer to avoid it, but we have a little bit of trick there. We can use mustard oil before cutting it to avoid the irritation, and while cooking, a little bit of lemon juice does the magic. That much for my recipe. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sujina. So you have your brother side. So would you like to share something about your brother, or because I guess he is doing sustainable practices, food sustainability practices. So would you like to tell something about you, Sujay? Yes.
I guess my sister will explain. I am very awkward, so I just cannot.
So my brother is currently 18 years old, and he has been vegetarian for around 12 years, and he has been practicing being vegan for around 2 years, because he is very very environment conscious and sustainable. Would you like to tell something about it?
I also practice minimalism in my life as much as possible right now.
Yeah, that's great. That's great to know you. Thank you so much, Sujina and Sujay. So what about Nishant? What have you cooked up today? Could you please turn your video on, Nishant, if you're there? I guess he has technical issues. So what about Swastika? Are you there? Swastika, are you there?
Nishant and Swastika have a message saying they are unable to turn on their videos. Uh-oh.
Okay, no worries.
Well, while they figure that out, Ghanshyam, I have a question for you. So you have been advocating towards so many different perspectives when it comes to, food and different parts of food. You specializing in food science and technology as well, and again, a lot of the chemistry aspects of it. What's your story and how, because I know you are a lot more involved in pedagogic systems. Now, how do you try and translate all these together, especially when it comes to the youth? Because I know I still remember avidly you spoke about one experiment where you went to schools individually, though you had no funding, and you still tried to convince them that this is good for the youth. And you tried to do that with over 100 schools. Am I correct?
Yes, not
Okay.
not 100 school, 10 school, 10,000 people.
Oh, amazing. Could you tell us more about it?
Yeah, exactly. When I was in bachelor's degree, I was in fourth year and I had visited to my local area, and I had attended FAO's quiz competition. There was a task for me to organize something impactful for my society. Then I suddenly realized that I have to do this, and I went to my village where I had passed my schools, and then I went to that school and approached to my teacher. Then they allowed me to organize some training programs. Then I started training to school students about food safety, climate change, and food security. After that, I realized that I'm good at doing this amazing work, and I got encouraged from many people. Then I started following other schools as well. Then I as a nutshell, I completed training in 10 schools, empowering about almost 1,000 students there about food safety and how to use food, how to cook food, and what are the aspects of what are the principle of food safety and how you can contribute to your society. So yeah, that was my first story, and then I got interested about food and climate change. Now as a food technology student, I'm trying to do something more innovative in terms of aligning food and chemistry perspective, so that I can create sustainable food. And I'm also planning to do master degree in food innovation, so that I can create more sustainable food using byproducts, especially in Nepal. There are some underutilized products. I want to produce more products from that underutilized food products and byproducts. Yeah, that is my vision. Thank you so much for asking. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kansham. This was an amazing conversation. Again, I must thank your friends because I know how difficult it was to get them all together, especially on a Friday evening, because Friday evenings are always fun times. So I hope this food conversation was insightful for you guys. You guys got the opportunity to get together and have a fun conversation as well. So I know you guys are still having your meals. I can see Ghanshyam's plates yet to be emptied out.
Finished.
So
Yeah.
I would say please do carry on, do complete your meals, and we would not take more of your time, but then please watch the live stream from there. So with that, thank you so much, Kansham. It was super nice to have you on board and share your thoughts with us. And thank you guests for coming in, and I wish you guys a lovely weekend and a happy Friday.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gan, and thank you so much, Joey, and then thank you so much every guest for joining is my climate support. We hope we can do this physically in the future as well. So thank you so much, everyone. Have a great time.
Amazing. Thank you so much, guys. So going on next further, we come back to my country from the state of Telangana in India. I know right now it's snack hour because it's somewhat, it's around 6 p.m. for me right now. So let me introduce you to Nikhil Dulipala, who is an agriculture final year student studying in the southern part of India at Vellore Institute of Technology. His passion encompasses activities engaging in the environment and pollution. After joining an agricultural school, his understanding magnified, drawing him towards organic farming, precision and controlled environmental agriculture practices, and agroforestry. Without further ado, Nikhil, the platform's all yours, and thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you, Gyan, for introduction. And I'm sorry that in hostel there were no permission to cook food, and now I'm sitting in the mess, and the chef has left because he has some tomato rice has to cook. It will take an hour or like more than an hour because he left. And anyhow, I got permission. I was struggling from 3 days. Today I met manager, like, and I got permission. Hostel manager, he supported me and he gave permission after telling everything. Uh, I'm sorry
So I
for.
believe we have a few questions prepared. So I know you got time to speak with the chef and get some of his answers, because I know it's a big facility and there are many students there. So I completely understand if he has to go and prepare dinner. So I know we discussed the questions beforehand. So I'm going to ask you the question, and if you can tell me the responses on
Yeah.
what they have provided. So starting off with the first one. Um, which cuisine is preferred the most in the hostel facility, and how do you optimize the use of local ingredients? So again, I'm presuming you asked the chef, so you might have the answers.
Mm, like a cuisine in Tamil Nadu, sambar was the famous thing. They will prefer the most like in tiffin, while lunch and dinner they'll prefer the sambar. Without sambar food, they'll not prefer the food. Generally, it was in South Indian mess. They'll like in tiffins also they'll provide like in a week 2 or 3 days sambar will not be there in tiffin, but every day there will be continuous sambar. And we all know that in Tamil Nadu it was very famous. Like they'll prepare with the different vegetables. Like they will not mix the vegetables. Uh, like with single vegetable they will prepare a single type of recipe. Like Tamil Nadu sambar was the famous in India also, and to use like when I was discussing with chef, he said that local ingredients like nowadays ingredients has been changed because of the breeding activities. Like the duration has been reduced in the brinjal or some of the vegetables, like growing duration. Due to that, the taste of the vegetable has been changed. Like before days, like if the brinjal cultivation was around 160 days, the brinjal taste will be similar. There will be no taste. But nowadays, what happened? There are the less duration varieties came into the play, and the taste has been reduced. It was affecting the taste, and the thing was even there was like other ingredients they was adding more. The taste was reducing. Yeah.
So let me quickly interrupt you, because I think we used a lot of amazing local terms that I am aware of, because I come from South India. But then I think I must explain the terms to our audience as well. So when you mean tiffin, it's usually breakfast or intermediary snacks. Sambar is a very well-known curry around the country, which is lentil-based. You puree the lentil, you add a lot of water, and then it's flavored with this concoction of spices that's usually in a powder format. Tiffin, yes, that's correct. So powder format, and depending on the type of vegetables, the consistency, as he said, the different types of sweeteners are just like different variations of palm sugar to different types of jaggery. The flavor profile changes. So even using different types of acidifying agents or vegetables, you can classify the same product as a breakfast dish, a lunch dish, or a dinner dish. So I know it's a very versatile meal, and in itself, it's got all the it's got vegetables, it's got fruits, and it's got spices, it's got lentils. So I know in itself, I like consuming it on its own, because it's a soup in general as well for many people, because you thin it down, it turns into a soup. You thicken it up, you have it with, let's say, a bread. If you water it down a bit more, you can have it with your crepes or your rice. So it's like so versatile. And as you said, I completely agree with you, because it's quite competitive down south. People love their food. And again, when you are in the university and you have a common dish that resembles many cultures, there are bound to be fights in a fun way. So thank you for that question, Nikhil. This takes me to our next part of the conversation, which is um, how do you think you can promote? So again, your youth, I believe you're fairly young, you're learning, you are in university. How do you see the youth of your region, your ecosystem, carry on the tradition of such beautiful cuisines. Like, for example, if I take the same sambar dish, do you see yourself making that in future? Do you see yourself passing the recipe down to future generations? Do you see that around with your friends as well?
Once can you explain? It was not clear.
So, if I had to simplify it, so do you think the concept of sambar will stay in future, or do you think because our parents are there and we make it every day, it's there? Do you think you will carry it on to the future?
Like if I was in Tamil Nadu, I think I
Okay.
will carry. I'll be not preferring because in our place it will be not there like every day. It will be preferred only some days where there was no vegetables to cook or something. But I think I'll not carry this. But my friends who are in Tamil Nadu, yeah, they'll carry definitely this. Like without
Absolutely.
sambar, yeah, the food.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Nikhil, for this conversation, because I know you need to go back as well, because I know you took special permission to come and sit down in the mess as well. So I would like to thank you for this. I think sambar is a very interesting conversation because it tends to a lot of conflicts as well. I've personally faced them. I think many cuisines around the world, they're very particular about their food, and sambar is one of those dishes. So thank you so much for coming in. I wish you a lovely Friday and a great weekend. And we shall see you soon. Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Nikhil.
Jan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Levin, bye.
Bye. So, before I introduce you guys to our next participant, I would like to say there is no better way to introduce our next participant than by a beautiful quote by Steve Jobs that I personally like. It's called "Stay hungry, stay foolish." Keeping that perspective in mind, I'm super happy to introduce you to Apurv Jha, who is dialing in from the state of Gujarat in India, and I know it's supper time for him. Apurv, our 16-year-old climate activist founder of Project Jal organization. He is an enthusiastic kid, again, 16 years, guys. He's an enthusiastic kid who loves public speaking and volunteering, and currently is working for different organizations. He also works for a well-known type 1 diabetic foundation named Diabesties. Under the youth wing named PFN, which is Blue Force Network, and with different type 1 diabetic kids and teens, he works for a collective goal to make every type 1 diabetic feel heard, loved, understood, and celebrated. Apurv, can we have you on, please? Well, while we figure Apurv out, Zoe, it's been quite an interesting journey to see on how varied. I mean, when it comes to food conversations, when it comes to people from different backgrounds, we had chefs, we had storytellers, we had conversationalists. Now we've got the youth, the kids, and scientists as well coming in. And what's your opinion about it? Again, you yourself as well being a chef. What's your thought?
I mean, this is the whole point of why we cook, right? And I'm sure that you can relate to that as well as a chef, as someone who really wants to form communion and communities around the table. I think it's really fantastic that we have so many diverse voices and opinions, and that's, I think, more of what we need around the table and around the world, I think. And all of us, forming this network to promote a particular kind of eating or a kind of being that is just a little bit more conscious and a little bit more thoughtful. I think that's really wonderful. So it's been amazing hearing all these stories, and that's how we all connect, right? Over stories and over food. So this climate supper has been great so far. More to come.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think Apurv is facing some technical issues, but then at the same time, I'm going to keep his introduction in place. I would like to introduce our next participant as well, who has just come in. And while Apurv is trying to figure his technical situation out, I would like to again go back to a beautiful quote by our founder, Sara Roversi, the president of Future Food Institute. She rightfully says, as I quote, "We cannot think about business anymore, like we said, something separate from the ecosystem and the health of the ecosystem." This is something that she quoted on Twitter during the Italian Cuisine Week that's happening right now. Um, One such thinker is our next participant. I hope Approve comes in super soon. So, one such thinker is our next participant, who is Atri Madhukalya from Delhi, India, and I know it's supper time for her. She is a 27-year-old chef from New Delhi. She lobbies on issues regarding chefs and work ethics in the kitchen. She speaks up on the injustice felt by her queer community and also in the kitchen. She is vocal about inclusive sustainability, where they don't just talk about farm to fork, but also about farmers, chefs, and servers, delivery people. She is passionate about perfectionism in the kitchen and what it should mean to not just one who eats it, but also for the one who makes it. She wants to stir conversations on why we appreciate a culture's food more than the people, why racism becomes more apparent to people but leaves out food, to find the meaning behind the correlation of these two. As a community member of the social gastronomy movement and as a cookbook contributor, she often questions the systems we have adopted and how we can do better, not just for nature, but for all of humanity too. Atri, good evening.
Hi,
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Do tell us. Thank you so much for coming in today because I know busy schedule, Friday evening, super crazy. But then, yes, what do you have for us today?
I have actually quite a spread, but not really. So I don't know how to show this to you. Okay, I'll just name you the dishes, and I will. I think I can just join it from my phone also, so I can show you the pictures. So what I have here is I come from a culture that eats a lot of offal, right? So I love liver. Okay, I love chicken liver. I really like the fact that it's really creamy and it's really a lot of flavors. So I have made a dish. All of my dishes are inspired by Ottolenghi, and I thought, and I love his simplicity, and I love the way he uses very simple ingredients, and he does magic with his food. So my first dish is, so he used vine leaves, but because I wouldn't have gotten here, so I used a method that we use a lot in our cuisine, which is steaming in banana leaves. So I steam, it's a liver, it's an apple, and it's a rice that has been steamed in banana, and then you just like, so I have that, and I have a cauliflower hummus with a cherry tomato confit, and I have this very beautiful Malayali dish. Malayali is Kerala, basically. So it's a very beautiful Malayali dish. It's called Permpoi, and it's basically, they have a Nindraparan bananas, and they fry it with batter, and then they eat it as it is. So what I've done is I have made smaller pieces, and I have plated it with honeyed mascarpone and ricotta, because I love parampuri, but I also sometimes feel like maybe I want to eat it with something. So I think that's kind of something I really like. And I have a ricotta. The ricotta is made by me because I love ricotta, and I can't keep buying it. So what I've done is,
just to quickly explain it to our audience here. So I know it's complicated. Parampuri is a complicated dish. So would I say it's like mashed up fruits turned with flour and turned into fritters? Would that be how it is?
I think they use the ripest banana they have, which is Nedrapam banana. So it's the ripest they have.
I think Zoe's area has the same bananas as well. It's the super big banana, Zoe.
Yeah, it is. I saw an INA yesterday, and I was like, this is way bigger than a normal banana, and it's great because that also opens up conversations to the different species of bananas we have. Because in Assam we have this, it's called bhimkol. It's really big. Like, it's not big lengthwise, It's big like breadth-wise, and you can see visible seeds. Like the seeds are at the size of a dried up horse gram. So I think that's like really. I have, but I don't know if anybody wants to see it. It's this big, and this is my hand in comparison. It is. I mean, and so they use the ripest banana so that it's so when you bite into it, the banana is very mushy and it's nice. Another dish I have, I come from a region that celebrates pork a lot, but I wanted to do something different with it. So I made a ricotta nudi with bacon broth, and a little bit of yogurt on top. And to really bring it all together, I have a salad. It is inspired again by Ottolenghi's seaweed salad, but I don't have seaweed here, and I can obviously get seaweed in Delhi. So I have lettuce, I have persimmon, and I have a little bit of apples also. So it's a very normal thing. Would you want me?
Yes, please. If we can see pictures, that would be amazing. Or if you can, are you on a desktop or a laptop right now?
I'm in a laptop right now.
Okay, if you can lift your laptop up in the air.
I can just like turn it, and okay, I don't know how to show this.
Oh, that is beautiful.
That is the salad. This is the nudi. This is the firm koi. This is the hummus. We have lavash, and that's the rice. The
what a gorgeous table. My gosh. That's stunning. Oh.
Are you, if I may ask, maybe a little personal, do you have guests coming in today for that amazing meal?
Yes, I have a couple of guests. Some of them are my colleagues, some of them are my family and friends, some of them are neighbors. So I wanted to bring in a bigger audience, but then I thought, I rarely for my community, the community that helps me so much. So I thought, maybe that's like a thing that I would do. Yeah.
This is beautiful. Yeah, oh my God.
I hope they enjoy them. I hope they enjoy my food because I've been cooking since yesterday and I really want to sleep right now.
So one question for you, because I know you are studying political sciences and you keep you keep studying about policy, legislature, advocacy, and you keep lobbying as well. If I had to ask you, how challenging is it when it comes to food?
How challenging is it when it comes to food? In what context would that be?
With every context, if it's when it comes to advocating, when it comes to making that difference, because I know it's not easy, it's quite difficult. Sometimes the simplest of things could be the most challenging of all. Now, keeping that in perception, how is it interesting? Is it complicated? Is it hard? Is it easy? Is it challenging? Sometimes does it not work at all?
So food becomes art when, and I know I know a lot of people will not be okay with what I'm saying, but food becomes art when you have privilege, when you have the money, when you have the means to do it. Okay. Tomorrow from a rural area, like we are from India, right? So from a rural area, from Dharavi maybe, they're not going to make art. They're just going to make food, right? So that's one thing. When it comes to creating food as art, is basically and mostly when it comes to privilege and I think class divide, and I think in India caste divide also. When it comes to food in general, I think there's a lot of conversation about how some communities or some states do not perform or are not open to being as vegan as we would want to. And I would want to address that because we start with a place has a cuisine that the way it does is because of the geographical setting of it, right? So for me, Northeast, we do not eat a lot of overly strong spices, but we do have a lot of flavors in it. So maybe aromatic spices, But when you come to North India, that completely changes, okay? And then you have a lot more bold flavors and you have a lot more strong flavors, like something that I would not necessarily eat at home. So, when you are saying that you have to take in a certain food ideology in your table, I think that also comes from a place of how can you do it? Because let me tell you, shifting, and I've tried it, shifting your diet from your normal diet to a vegan diet, for example, takes a lot of money. Like oat milk, for example, costs a lot. Almond milk costs a lot. Coconut milk also quite cheap, but also quite costs a lot. Vegan cheeses. And we also have to realize the environmental impact it has on making sure that these products are not destroying our nature, right? For example, if you're going to replace soybean, if you're going to replace meat with soybean, you have to realize that soybean is a very much of a water guzzling crop. You cannot expect someone to use soybean. I mean, I'm not saying veganism is bad. I'm not saying that I love the vegan food, and I have trained for vegan food, and whenever I can, I try to make things the way I would want to by substituting. But the idea of pushing someone towards an ideology like that is a very difficult thing. And we as climate shapers or food shapers should realize that there's only so much you can do to, change someone's diet, right? Like, and also there are so many dietary restrictions. I'm not like, it's a whole wide world. Like if you're thinking about medicine also, a lot of people do not suit some of the diets that a lot of people, I mean, I'm just saying, there are different ways to make sustainability a very much of a part of our life. And that shouldn't come from a place of pushing someone, or, forcing someone. It comes gradually. Like, how we have conversations in our classes, making smaller changes, that is something that, can be taken. But I don't really think it's right for someone to expect someone else to change their entire course of life because you think, it's going to change the planet. No, a poor person eating meat is not going to stop global warming tomorrow. That's not what's going to happen. That a global north should realize that they have a huge responsibility because they're a richer part, right? Because we have global north and we have global south. So if you are going to think about global warming, you have to think about climate change. You cannot look at developing countries or the global south and be like, no, you have to change. Charity begins at home. So before you look at your neighbors, you really have to talk about yourself before you move on to someone else. I mean, that's what I believe, and it's completely my personal opinion as someone who looks at food from a very political perspective. But I could very well be wrong, but it's something I very staunchly believe in.
Quite true, actually, and it's quite. I'm at a loss of words right now. That's what I would say. I know it has been a difficult journey as well because I have heard your stories from before and how each and every step of the way is a new challenge. But then I think it's challenge that has been enlightening and something that was not a waste of time. And I would feel it would be the same for future climate shapers and for future lobbyists and future advocates when it comes to the food industry. Because you not only are a chef, but then you are studying political sciences. So in future, putting them together creates a very new story altogether.
Yeah, if I could add on to what Gian said, I think, you going through your struggles and through challenges like that, I think it's also really informed how have exactly the same challenges, but it's really inspiring to hear your story. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I mean, thank you so much, Atre, for that conversation. I do not want your food to go cold. So let's, it looks so beautiful. And unfortunately, Apurv has not been able to join the conversation today due to some kind of technical difficulty. I would like to, this brings us to the end of our conversation for now, for the first session of the 5th cohort of our climate support. As you guys know, and I'm going to repeat this again. So today, the Future Food and the Chef's Manifesto co-organized a global convivium, which is still going on. And we have 2 more chapters left later on today in the afternoon and followed by another one in the evening, where the Food and Climate Shaper Digital Bootcamp participants and their communities will engage with 3 thematic areas. We just went through the first area. We are left with 2 more. As you guys know, We define the climate supper as moments of conviviality, sparking authentic connections within local and global communities over home-cooked meals and sustainability conversations. Stay tuned in for our next conversation later today at 5:30 p.m. We will be focusing on Area 8, nutritious food that is accessible and affordable for all. With that, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you had fun. If you do have any questions, please post them in the different chat groups that are present with our live stream on YouTube and Facebook. Um, Thank you so much, guys, for coming in, and see you at 5:30 p.m. CET time today.